Well, hi, it's James Poulter here from the Vixen Labs team, and excited to spend some time talking to John Kelvie from Bespoken. John, do you want to just tell us a little bit about your story? Where did you come from?
Yeah, absolutely. So really excited to be here. It's nice to see you again in person, JP. Bespoken, we do testing, training, and monitoring for voice and chat. We've been doing this since 2017. We've got a company that's kind of globally dispersed, though we're somewhat well known for having a lot of our team in Peru. So
That's
we have
right.
these nice llamas
Yeah,
that we sometimes
lovely
distribute at
llamas.
events.
Yeah.
The llamas are maybe the most popular thing we've ever done. But so we've been doing this since 2017, and it's really been fun to see this space evolve.
Yeah.
To get to know people like yourself, and see how voice has really grown and become a really amazing space.
So I suppose one of the things that most people, if they've heard of Bespoken before, and certainly what you might be known for, is testing.
Yes.
How do we make experiences better?
Yeah.
Whether that's kind of voice experiences on Alexa and Google, whether that's custom assistants, whether it's IVR, tell us a little bit about kind of why the industry needs to level up on the kind of quality side of things.
Well, the testing side, it's not an accident that we focused on that. I had been doing speech recognition going back to 2012, and what I learned being the CTO of companies based around speech recognition was that you actually spent most of your time curating data and testing. And so testing is always important. I mean, if you're building a mobile app, you need to ensure it works correctly. But for voice, it becomes even more important. Just because it's probabilistic by nature. It's not this sort of binary thing. It works or it doesn't. Every person might sound a little bit different.
I always talk about it as the go home problem, right? It's like if I'm Uber and I say to Uber go home, it means one thing. If I'm in the McDonald's app and I say Uber, kind of McDonald's go home.
Right, that's a great example.
Very different experience. In the mobile or web world, the back button does one thing.
Yeah.
In the voice world, it doesn't. Do you think customers really get that at the moment? The importance of why we have to build for these kind of very nuanced ways of doing things?
I think that's been one of the most interesting things about seeing this space evolve over the last 5 years. Coming into it, in 2016, I thought, well, we built some automated testing tools, and we're going to be greeted as heroes. We were not.
We appreciate them, but not everyone saw the light straight away.
Yeah, it takes time,
Yeah.
and then also, like you mentioned it today in your talks, there's a lot of pilots.
That's right.
Tons of pilots, and we think people should do everything in a high quality way. But let's face it, if it's a pilot, did you really need to put 99% quality on it?
That's right. Maybe not.
Yeah, I probably not, I guess.
No. But as you begin to kind of move out of that kind of innovation and piloting stage and into kind of business as usual, customer expectation goes up, right?
Yes.
And that means that your guys' customers have to level up their experiences.
Yeah, and what we've seen over the last few years is, an increased attention to quality, and also more attention on ROI.
That's right.
So we do like the contact center space, and one of the reasons why we like the contact center space is if you can show people that by improving the accuracy of their system, and that you're basically offloading people that would be going to a call center so that instead they're being handled by the bot. It's real dollars.
I talked about this today, kind of 2022, I think is the year where, we obviously see increase in things like media control, but massively in, the way in which we kind of shop and spend our money. And what we look for in, things like customer service is that ability to get things done right now, right here, in the way in which I want, without having to pick up the phone to talk to somebody.
Yes.
And, I suppose the opportunity there is, kind of how do you pick up on all these different variables and build for all of those different scenarios? And, kind of Bespoken, you're kind of trying to help build a solution for that, right?
We are, and we see people, they're coming to us because they want to do just the basic stuff, and they want to, ensure, the thing doesn't fall down completely.
Right. But test number one.
Yeah, that is, and that's always important. But then getting into the far more sophisticated end, where it's like, okay, we're going to launch into a new region that we haven't done before, new languages, new customer base. And it's really challenging. And actually, I shouldn't make it sound like we do all that stuff on our own, because like just at this event, there's other vendors here, and it's like, I like going around and talking to them. There's people that do data collection. There's people that provide great speech recognition.
That's right.
And so all those tools, we want to incorporate them. And also folks like yourself that are going to help people bring that all together into a solution.
Absolutely. So let's talk about those solutions a little bit. So obviously one of the big areas that people have focused on the last couple of years is building things like Alexa skills or Google Assistant actions. In the early days, those were quite simple things, but we've seen particularly in the past couple of years, the addition of a number of different features, particularly on the Alexa side, has become more and more complicated. Just talk us through a little bit about kind of what Bespoken is doing in that space to kind of help those experiences get better.
Well, and on the Alexa side, what we see is that it's actually gotten phenomenally complicated, especially when you start, maybe it's overly complicated.
Well,
you guys aren't from Amazon, right? Okay. There's so many different form factors. There's an incredible number of features. There's an incredible different number of ways to build. And so for our customers, it's just about, they just want to make sure there's some uniformity to that experience and that it's not completely broken. And so that part, that's very challenging. And we see the same thing on the Google side where, they've not had necessarily the same sort of rapid expansion of functionality.
No.
But there have been challenges with Google, especially around let's say the stability of the product line and the platform.
Yeah, and obviously the evolution of dialog flow and some of the other kind of intricacies. And people are plugging in now things like complex APIs, adding on microservices. There's the whole visual element to everything as well. These experiences are getting exponentially more complex, and I imagine that brings new challenges in terms of the way in which we test them and ensure that they're going to hold up and be resilient in the future.
It does, absolutely.
Yeah. So when you kind of think outside of that space, one of the other big trends we're seeing is this move towards custom assistants, right? People aren't just sticking within the kind of the Google and Alexa ecosystem. They really want to, kind of build out their own solutions that are going to work anywhere. How are you guys looking at the future of that, and what maybe nuances does that bring to the way in which you ensure those solutions are the best they're going to ever be?
So we do some work on the custom assistant side. Customers like Roku, Mercedes. They've taken on building custom assistants, but we haven't seen as much with that. I do think that that's a really tough thing to take on. Instead, we tend to look at it as the big space and the big advantage for voice and bots in general is around automation, taking things that were going to human beings and instead doing it via one of these bots. A lot of the custom assistants, like you think about something like Erica from Bank of America, probably one of the standout examples of a custom assistant. It's phenomenally difficult to do, and they're trying to take away work from a mobile app. Right. And that's hard to compete with.
Yeah.
Not impossible, but hard.
Yeah. To kind of lift and shift that from one medium and platform into an entirely another paradigm, it's not an easy task.
Yeah. We really like to think of our market as people that are doing automation.
Right.
I think framing it in that way, it really helps us see clearly where the opportunities are.
So, one of the things that you guys are doing is the testing side, but you're also kind of training these experiences to kind of get smarter over time and also monitor them as they kind of become kind of bigger and more integrated in a way. Just talk me about the kind of life cycle of some of these kind of products.
Yeah, so the training piece is probably the part that we get most excited about. We do think that accuracy is absolutely essential for these systems. Right. I like to pick on all these examples. So Genesis is a company that we do a lot of work with, right? And so Genesis, one of their default implementations, or if you start building about with Genesis, you're very likely going to end up using Amazon Lex.
Right.
And Amazon Lex, out of the box, has some significant shortcomings.
Right.
And so just to help people, improve that Lex implementation, or even unbundle it, so they're not stuck just using Lex. We think it can really unlock a lot of potential for these customers.
Absolutely. And so talk to me about this specific use case. You mentioned earlier on about the call center, and this is one of the things that people are seeing is actually potentially one of the biggest ways to drive ROI through a business when it comes to voice in particular. What are some of the kind of common things that you're experiencing when you're talking to customers about this? What are the challenges they're trying to overcome?
Yeah, I think so. The trajectory in the call center, I think, is just really interesting, where you have a huge number of people just going to the cloud. So that's a huge amount of the mental energy that's getting consumed, is people trying to get from an on-premise system into a cloud-based system.
Right.
And we don't actually have that much to do with that, except for the fact that then the cloud systems that they're coming to, whether it's a Connect or a Genesis or a Five9, their cloud offerings are actually relatively immature. Even though they're very innovative in a lot of ways, they may be missing significant features that are needed to actually build a mature product.
That's right.
So people land on Genesis Cloud or they land on Amazon Connect, and then they realize, oh boy, I've all of a sudden given up a lot.
Right.
So we help them figure out how to get out of those little ditches, do the basic stuff to make sure that it's working right, but then also show them how to unlock more use cases.
Got it.
Because if people, what we see with a lot of customers, because they're getting started with this stuff, if they can get that win and that success with an initial implementation, then it really unlocks a lot of other stuff.
How important is it then, as we kind of come into land here, is, at what point of the journey should a customer be thinking about this? That kind of test, train, optimize kind of journey. People often leave it too late, is my experience.
It is late. I will tell you that we are doing work to try to incorporate it much sooner in the process. So tying into conversational design tools, trying to get in there at the onset of the project so that we can really make sure the thing is set up correctly. Because one thing I would want people to think about with testing, which is not something people get excited about, but if you pick the wrong tech stack, you will feel excited in a very bad way when you find out it doesn't work at all, which is kind of a common refrain we hear from people that start with Lex or Dialogflow. They get 6 months into a project and they're like, we may have to scrap the whole thing.
Start over.
So that's exciting in a really negative way. Much better to do your testing and then you can have a fun experience.
Get upstream of the problem. John, if people want to find out more about Bespoken, where do they go and what's the right place to do that?
Sure. Our website is bespoken.io and you can just go there, reach out to us. We got one of those little widgets in the lower right. Just talk to us. We're helpful people.
Well, thanks so much for talking to us. If you're interested, go and find out more about Bespoken, head to the website. And thanks so much for taking some time to chat to us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's great talking to you,
Thanks so
JV.
much.
Excellent.